Right, let's go straight to Sally Gethin, who's an aviation and travel commentator. Sally, thanks for joining me on Talk this afternoon to talk about, a very tragic subject, this Washington, D.C. air crash, of course, which happened the night before last. Any update from you in terms of anything we've heard while I've been on air in the last 2 or 3 hours?
Well, there seems to be a fork in the road in terms of what people are thinking could have happened, and some of the information I'm getting from Washington DC is highlighting the air traffic control issue. I myself was bringing that up yesterday anyway, because the bigger picture to this is that ATC in the United States is in a bit of a mess. Not enough controllers, the tech is outdated, and while they have a really excellent safety record, it's still pushing. It's still pushing the boundaries in terms of what's safe. I mean, there have been runway incursions over the last year or so in the United States, which mean that communications with the control tower at those airports have been involved in some of the previous incidents. We have not had the massive loss of life. The United States has not had the massive loss of life on the scale that happened last night, of course. And then the other focus...
Sandy, sorry, I read somewhere, forgive me if I'm wrong, but this is the first fatality air crash that there's been in the US since 2009. I mean, that's a thankfully long time, but that's a very, very long time for there not to have been a fatality as a consequence of an air collision.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean to say that the system is safe, right? No. I think that's hard for people to get their heads around. It's like, oh, well, there hasn't been an accident for like how long? Oh, it's really, really safe.
Well, hang on, Sally, are you saying it's not safe?
I am saying that actually there are a lot of documented issues with the air traffic safety system. There's been a US government watchdog looked into it and drawn its own conclusions about that. And in fact, a congressman said at the end of last year, who was part of that task force that looked at it, is that, you know, it only takes a major incident to happen for it to be exposed as not being that safe.
And what are the issues, Sally? Because we heard President Donald Trump yesterday saying that, and of course he would say this, of course, that, when he was in his first term, he wanted to completely restart and renew the technology system used by United States air traffic controllers. When Biden then was elected thereafter, he cancelled that program and simply reinvested in upgrades of that software system, which Donald Trump now says was a mistake and actually cost more money. So it sounds like you're subscribing to the fact that the electronics, the computer system, the software is not fit for purpose. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's functioning. It's fit for purpose in the sense that it has worked, like you pointed out, in over the last decade or so. But it's outdated, and it should have been upgraded a long time ago. And there's even been concern that new, younger controllers are entering that sort of field, that sector, and having to deal with outdated analog systems that the younger generation are not used to dealing with. So it is outdated. I mean, it's been batted around like ping pong between different administrations, and it's called the next gen system.
But Sandy, this is people's lives. I mean, how many people are in the air at any one time over the United States? I don't know, 500,000 or something? I mean, and how can this be used as a political football? I mean, surely it's, apart from defence and the economy, probably the most important thing that an administration could be responsible for.
I know it seems like incredible, like at first glance, like how could this be happening? It's been a very insidious issue where it's just not been fully replaced. And President Trump was referring to it yesterday in his speech, saying that the Biden administration were just adding layers to a legacy system, really. I think that's what he was saying. And that he had previously proposed that a brand new system should come in.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's that, right? But also there's another issue. So the pandemic, as we all know, grounded aircraft. A lot of controllers, were lost at that time. There was a big sort of shift, a churn in the workforce.
Well, Sally, let's talk about the people in a sec. I'm just going to remind us all of what Donald Trump yesterday. So let's just see this clip.
The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway.
I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level.
Wow. Yes, so telling it how it is or how it might not be. Obviously, we have no idea, Sally, as to the reason for this, whether it be pilot error on one part or the other, mechanical error, or indeed, yes. So let's talk about the people involved here in terms of air traffic control. We're hearing, again unsubstantiated, that one of the reasons that may have contributed to this air crash is because of a lack of resource, a lack of people within the air traffic control room at the time, where one of them apparently was doing the job of two people, so effectively marshalling helicopters and civil aeroplanes at the same time. So I don't know if there's any confirmation of that, but if that's true, that would seem to be something that is, I mean, go figure, potentially disastrous.
So you've nailed it, right? That's what I was trying to say, that there is the tech side of it, but there's also the numbers of controllers. There's a big shortage, and what seems to be happening is that the controllers that are working are working extra hours, longer hours. It's an extremely fatiguing job. It's like so intensive, very, very stressful work. I mean, I do agree with President Trump in the sense that, you know, you have to have exceptional concentration and mental acuity.
Well, he said yesterday, so you have to be all kinds of genius. You need to be, you know, of the utmost intellect. You know, no idiots need apply. But what I don't understand, Sally, is that, you know, what you're saying is there's a resource issue in terms of being able to recruit people. And I suppose that then plays into this narrative from President Trump yesterday, where he's saying that the FAA, not recently, but as much as a year and a half to 2 years ago, have launched a recruitment campaign for workers with, and I'm kind of quoting here directly from a headline in a newspaper 14 or 15 months ago, workers with severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems and physical issues, of course, which President Trump mentioned a couple just now in terms of people that are impaired from the point of view of hearing and sight. So I suppose the question is, if it's hard to recruit air traffic controllers, is that why the FAA are deciding to spread themselves thin in terms of there being this DEI mandate? And surely someone sees the consequences of someone that can't see or hear very well being an air traffic controller would seem to be pretty moronic to me.
Okay, so right, I'm not a DEI diversity expert. I'll put that out there right away. So I can't speak to the veracity, the accuracy of that claim that was made. I rather suspect that perhaps that statement about being inclusive, you know, that inclusive hiring policy could have applied to people working throughout the FAA, not necessarily controllers, because controllers are working for the FAA, but the FAA hires a huge number of positions. So it's a bit of a leap to think that...
but Donald Trump specifically said as controllers. That's what he said. He's saying he's wrong. Okay.
Well, you know, maybe he's, you know, got...
Well, he's probably got more information than you and I have. He's probably got more info than you and I have.
Yes. So anyway, but there's been a lot of pushback, by the way, overnight, especially in the United States about that. And in fact, the former Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg,
well, he's the one that, hang on, he's the one that put all the woke policies in place in the first place. He's bound to attack Donald Trump, isn't he?
He's really gone on the fight back.
He's going to defend himself and his stupid policies.
Well, he's turned it the other way, you know, and said that that's not true, and he's accused the president of actually, firing people from the FAA within his first several days in office.
What, and he thinks that might have contributed 3 days later to this crash? That's rubbish, isn't it?
Well, I think it's sort of turning into a bit of a standoff now, but politics aside, or, you know, we have to look at the resources of air traffic control. And I think We don't know yet, very early stages with this investigation. Within the first 30 days of the accident, the country where the government of the country where an accident occurs has to produce, is obligated to produce a preliminary report. So we can expect that within the next 30 days.
Pretty soon.
Then
and I'm sure President Trump will stand up at the lectern and leak it before it gets out to us. Sally Gethin, thank you very much indeed for your expertise. You've got to leave it there.